Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Economics with Robert Wenzel. I'm Robert Wenzel. This week's topic is, does the Biden administration have a secret plan to drive down the dollar on foreign exchange markets? Okay, let me set the scene here. There's been a tremendous amount of money that has been pumped into the system since March of last year. Last year alone, the money supply increased by more than $4 trillion. That's an increase in the money supply of about 26%. That is a huge amount of money. Money supply growth continues to increase in the first quarter of 2021. And I think it's only going to get worse as the year moves on because we've got the Biden quote unquote stimulus program that has just been released. The Fed is going to monetize that. By monetization, what I mean by that is the Treasury issues debt, and they also have a balance with the Federal Reserve. That makes it a little bit technical. But essentially, what happens is the Federal Reserve creates money out of thin air to buy, and they do it in a complicated manner, but they essentially buy the issuance that the Treasury is putting out. So that's going to be more trillions on top of the 4 trillion last year, in addition to regular Federal Reserve operations that are pumping money into the system. So there's a tremendous amount of money. That money, some of it will work its way around the globe and have a downward pressure on the dollar. Now, the dollar was actually started crashing last year in April of last year and dropped about 10% throughout the year, and then started to increase right at the first of the year. But I think this increase is just temporary. The strength in the dollar of 3%, just sort of a technical reaction kind of thing. And I expect the dollar to continue to collapse. Now, this apparently is not enough for the Biden administration because they are taking extremely unusual actions that will put more pressure, downward pressure on the dollar and foreign exchange markets. And I can't believe that the economists at the Federal Reserve and the Treasury do not understand what these actions mean. So let's take a look at what's going on. The Treasury announced just a few days ago that they support an increase in the International Monetary Fund's special drawing rights of $650 billion worth. Now, the special drawing rights are basically international money creation out of thin air. Now, the technocrats will argue that it's really not creation of money. They call it a creation of an asset. But what really happens is anybody who gets an SDR can take the SDR, and it's only issued to countries. Any country can take the SDRs and present it to the United States, to Japan, and the European Central Bank, and ask for their currencies in exchange for the SDRs. So if a country were to take its SDRs and present them to the United States Treasury, the Treasury could issue dollars for those SDRs. So it's a very roundabout way. It's how they always do things in a very, very complex manner to hide what's really going on. But it's essentially, it's either taking money out of a country that's already been printed, or it's printing more money to meet the SDR demand. Now, the Treasury is calling for the IMF to issue $650 billion worth of SDRs. That is a tremendous amount when you consider that $1 trillion in the United States is a huge amount increase in the money supply. 4 trillion last year was just incredible. So if SDRs are launched, are allocated to countries around the world, the United States will get some roughly about $113 billion worth. But the rest of that's going to be floating out there. And a large part of that could come back to the United States as a demand for dollars. And the Treasury seems perfectly willing to meet that demand. I estimate it would probably be somewhere around 300, if this allocation takes place, and that's what they're discussing, an allocation of 650 billion. I estimate that the Treasury would have to issue somewhere around $300 billion to meet the demands of those that would present SDRs to the United States. So that would just be putting 300 billion right out there in foreign markets. People who are requesting dollars aren't requesting them to just sit on them over there. They're going to be spending that, pushing pressure on the dollar, and uh, creating more havoc in the foreign exchange markets. It's really hard to understand why the Biden administration would be pushing for this, but they are. They're getting 300 billion right out there that could easily hit the foreign exchange markets right after it's exchanged from SDRs to dollars. Now, in addition to that, just the other day, an interesting report came out of Reuters. It says the United States is considering a conditional cash transfer program to help address economic woes that lead migrants from certain Central American countries to trek north. The potential program would be targeted at people in the Northern Triangle region of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, where Berta Jackson, the White House's Southern Border Coordinator, told Reuters in an interview. So get this. I mean, there's no numbers tossed at this, but they actually want to pay people to stay in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador by paying them money to stay there so they don't come here. That's kind of like universal basic income for people in South America. Hey, don't come here. We'll just give you money. It's kind of an insane program on many levels. But again, that's going to be pumping huge amounts of dollars into South America. This is all dollars that have the potential to hit the foreign exchange market in exchange for whatever currency these people want in their local markets. It makes no sense again on very many levels because unless you keep the flow of money going to these people, as soon as it runs out, they're going to come to the United States. So you're going to have to keep on providing this money. It's a regular flow. It's universal basic income for South Americans. And it's pumping a lot of money that can very easily hit the foreign exchange markets. So either by accident or by plan, the United States government is doing all kinds of things that are going to put all kinds of dollars outside the United States, where it's going to make sense for those people to exchange them for whatever currency they use for whatever dealings they do. And that's going to put enormous pressure on the dollar on foreign exchange markets, in addition to foreign exchange pressure on the dollar that's going to happen anyways because of all the money the Federal Reserve is printing. So save this one, file this video away, file this podcast away. And remember, I told you here first in April of 2021. I warned you about what's going to happen to the dollar. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out my website, economicpolicyjournal.com, where I post about economic policy, economic theory, economic personalities, Monday through Friday. And then I post on Saturday and Sunday also. I don't stop. It's all there all the time. That's economicpolicyjournal.com. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.